Welcome back, everyone. Today we're making homemade vegetable stock. So I hope you have your bag of scraps, or maybe you're working on making a full gallon bag. You can tell I don't quite have a full gallon. That's okay. I'll do a smaller batch today. The nice thing about stock is that, you're the only one making the rules, so you can also bend and break the rules too. So last week we talked about reducing food waste and how important that is, because we throw away about a third of the food that we could consume here in the United States. So there are a lot of things that we can do at home, including making our own stock from scraps and from vegetables that might be just a tad beyond eating them fresh. Not too far gone, but maybe a little bit bendy, or you've got celery that's a little bit sad and wilted. So that's what we'll do today. The nice thing about stock is that your ingredients for your stock can just be thrown in a bag. You don't have to prep anything ahead of time, really. So in my bag here for my stock, I've got the tops of peppers, I've got peeled carrots, I've got the leaves from celery, which add quite a lot of flavor. We've got the skins of onions. What else is in here? Some leaves, actually lettuce. In addition to the harder vegetables, we've got some lettuce in there that is going to add a little bit of flavor too, and some extra bulk. So things that probably, in terms of what you're deciding to put in stock, from what I found, there's a lot of controversy as to what you put in the stock and what you don't. So my first live video, I was kind of rambling on about putting onion and garlic in stock, but in very, conservative amounts. We didn't want to add too much to overpower the stock. Well, it turns out that onion and garlic are great additions, so we're not too worried about those. From everything that I read, it looks like the vegetable family that we want to leave out of a stock is the cruciferous family. So that includes broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, even things like kale. All of that falls under the cruciferous family. They kind of have these off flavors over time as you boil and then simmer for an hour or more in your stock. So we don't want to add those into our stock, but pretty much everything else is okay. People seem to be kind of on one side or another when it comes to adding potatoes. Here in North Carolina, we grow a lot of sweet potatoes. So I use a lot of sweet potatoes in my cooking. So I'm adding sweet potato peels. You don't have to if you don't want to. Adding starch will kind of maybe make the stock a little cloudy. It might not be perfectly clear, but it would add some delicious flavor, that sweet potato lending its nice sweet flavor to the stock. So, good stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we want to maybe avoid. Asparagus has kind of a strong flavor. So unless you want an asparagus stock, maybe leave that out. I read a suggestion to add tomato paste for extra body and flavor. And then I read another suggestion that said, don't put tomatoes in stock, it overpowers everything. So you know what? I think it's up to you. You put in what you think is going to taste good. You put in what you usually use at home, the scraps from what you use at home, and it'll be perfect. So once you fill up a gallon-sized bag of your veggies, just gonna take it and dump it in a stock pot. Doesn't have to be nice looking or precise. We're just gonna dump it in there. Still got some stuff in my bag. I'll just save it for next time and fill it up again and make more stock. So I've got some carrots. I'm actually gonna add this whole carrot. It is a little bit past its prime, and this is a great use for it. So we'll sacrifice the carrot, but you could, peel the carrots and just peel them directly into the stock. Maybe you make stock as you're preparing your vegetables for the week. So the peels never even hit, the trash can. They just go straight into the pot. It's a great place to collect things too. So you've got a nice little bin, but you're going to get something delicious and tasty out of it. So it's a bonus. So I'm peeling for the sake of peeling, but I'm actually going to put this carrot in. So I'm going to cut it up. If I was using this carrot, I would just cut the ends off and throw them in there. But we're going to go ahead and cut up the carrot and throw it on in. Get a lot of nice carrot flavor. With the onion, we can take the whole thing basically. The key is anything that we're going to put in the stock, we do want to have washed ahead of time. So that's important. But pretty much once you give an onion, you might have some of the skin that just falls right off. That's okay. But once you give it a good rinse, you're good to just very carefully using, we talk about the claw method where your hands are kind of in a claw to hold on to your food. Cut off the bottom. Easier to peel this way. So cut off the bottom, just throw the bottom straight into the pot. Go ahead and cut it down straight through the middle, leaving the root on. And then that way, it's easier to peel that outer skin right off of there. Let's throw that in there. Okay. Put my onion half in a container where I was cutting up other onions before. Put those skins in there. Okay. Pretty much good to go. Now, we're going to fill this pot with just a little bit of water to go past to the scraps themselves. So it doesn't need to be a very precise thing. It's just once they begin to float, you have enough water. You don't need to fill up the whole pot. It'll take longer to boil that way anyway. So I'm going to do my cooking channel type of switcheroo, and I'll come back with some stock that is ready. Okay, let me move this stuff out of the way. Okay. So I've had a stock going on the stove for a little while. That's why I didn't have very much in my bag. I had to split it between two pots so you could see the end of it too. To get to this point, what we would do with that pot is go ahead and fill it up to the point where the scraps are floating. Put it on the eye. Bring it to a boil. So go ahead and get it really hot first. The 9 or all the way high on your dial for your stove. Get it really hot. Let it boil. And then once it's a rolling boil for a minute or so, you can back it off to quite low heat. Give it a little bit of a stir. But for the most part, we're just going to leave it alone after that for about an hour, maybe up to 2, but it doesn't take very long. So this has been going for about an hour and a half on a simmer. And while I think about it, I'm going to go ahead and turn my stove off. We never want to leave an eye unattended that's still hot. Okay, so I've got my cloud of steam coming up here. I'm going to set my lid over here. Quite hot. Okay. So the easiest way to get the vegetable debris and the stock separated is just to use a metal colander or strainer in another bowl that's bigger. The key is this bowl needs to be bigger than this colander. I'm just going to carefully pour the stock in there, and I'll show you what it's looking like. I realize I wish I had a glass bowl that's big enough. I don't, unfortunately. So you can see a little bit of, you can see the steam rising, a little bit of what's going on there. So we can kind of push the stock through using my wooden spoon here. Push all that liquid through. We're left with some vegetable debris. And while this is still technically waste, we've gotten another use out of it before throwing it away. For extra bonus points, you could you could compost all of what's in here on a compost heap. Unfortunately, my worms won't really care for it too much because it's got onions in it. But we could recycle, or I keep saying recycle. We could compost it in a backyard composting bin or pile. Okay, so I've gotten all the liquid out of that I think I can get. I'm just going to put the scraps back in the pot for the time being, make it easier on myself. Okay. Finding places to put things is always fun. All right, I'm going to put this on top of here. All right. And then I have this really pretty golden liquid that I'll show you as I pour it. To practice this, we'll see how it goes. So I've got a funnel and a mason jar. Glass is really helpful if you're going to store it in the fridge or freezer. A rigid container really helps as opposed to a bag. Plus, you don't have to wait for it to cool down. Just make sure that if you're going to put it in the freezer, you use a freezer-safe glass. That's important. So most canning jars are rated to go into the freezer, but you do want to look and make sure that that is the case. It can withstand extreme temperatures. Oh my gosh, it might be a perfect pint of liquid. I didn't plan that. It just kind of happened. It's amazing. The jar is a little warm. But you can see here is my beautiful vegetable stock that's only been going for an hour and a half. It doesn't take that long. Oh, I'm so excited. This is great. So this, I use the little plastic lids that you can buy for canning jars instead of the metal ones. You know, the metal ones are great if you're actually canning. The plastic storage ones can really help if you're putting things away in the fridge or freezer. They don't rust, you know. They're a little bit easier to just throw in the dishwasher and go. So I would put a plastic storage lid on this. And then, well, I would wait for it to cool down first because it is quite hot. We don't want to put hot stuff directly in there or in the freezer. So let it cool down, cap it. In the fridge for 3 to 4 days or in the freezer for 4 to 6 months. Kind of depends. Not that it's any less safe after that point. It's just that the quality and the flavor is going to be best between 4 and 6 months. So, something to think about, some additions that you might have that I didn't mention. I didn't actually put garlic in here, any cloves of garlic, but you absolutely could. You can put the skin and all, just like with onions. Just give them, you know, a cut in half or something, or smash them a little bit, so you start to release some of that beautiful garlic oil and juice, the meaty bit, right? You can also put herbs like parsley, sage, rosemary, thyme. It's going to start sounding like the Scarborough Fair song. You can put the stems, the leaves of herbs, pretty much everything can go in there. A traditional broth, let me see if I've got that right. A stock is different from a broth because a stock is typically, a lot of it has to do with cooking bones and stuff. Well, this is vegetables. We're not adding any meat to it. Animal carcass would be really excellent for adding more flavor. So if you had a full chicken or something and you wanted to cook down what was left of the bones, that would be real tasty. But a stock is not necessarily seasoned. So this is kind of like a blank slate. You can do whatever with it. You can add whatever seasonings. So I recommend you start with something that is more basic first. If you wanted to add things like whole peppercorns to your stock, you absolutely could. It's all based on what you want to do. Remember, it's you make the rules, so you can break them too. So you can add herbs. You could add spices like whole peppercorn. You could add other whole spices. If you're going to add spices, add them later in the simmering, just so that they don't, sit there for quite a long time and kind of the flavor won't be quite as good. Let's see what else is important to think about. Another way that you could pack this stock, if you didn't want to have to do it in the glass jars, would be to pour them into ice cube trays. So if you pour them into ice cube trays, you could use them in, little cubes, like bouillon cubes or something, and use it as a flavoring agent to really just about anything that you're cooking that's savory. So you could freeze them in the ice cube tray, dump the ice cubes into a freezer safe, gallon or 2 gallon, depending on how much stock you're making, bag, label it, remember to label with the date, when you made that stock, so you're not thinking 6 months from now, wait, what stock was this? When did I make this? And then, you can just pull out however many cubes you need. Also, do think about ahead of time what you're going to use your stock for. So if you're going to use things in maybe cup increments, if you're going to cook rice with your stock, if you're going to use it as the base for gravy, or if you're going to make a lot of soups and stews, think about how many cups you would need at a time and freeze it in those increments. You can also just freeze it up to, a full pint or quart of the liquid. Do leave some headspace though. Don't fill it all the way up to the very top, because remember, liquid is going to expand when it starts to freeze. So that's important as well. Okay. So what are some things that you would make with stock? I know that I've got some stock makers on the video today who are watching. Let me know what you make with stock, and we'll talk about it here in a few minutes. Let me think if there's anything else I wanted to chat about. You can use stock in pretty much anything you can imagine that is a savory dish. So you could use it as the base for soups and stews. You could use it as the liquid for cooking grains. Actually, next week, we will continue with our theme of building on, one subject on another. And we're going to use this stock that we've made today and talk about how to perfectly cook grains every time. So rice, quinoa, couscous, whatever it is. If you struggle with gummy grains, we're going to fix it. We're going to make them taste really delicious every single time. You can also use this as the liquid for braising. So, using the liquid to cook meat or vegetables and add a whole lot of extra flavor. You could use it for the liquid that it calls for in a casserole dish. Make a whole ton of broth way ahead of the holiday season. And then you have your own homemade broth to work with, and you never have to buy any from the store at all. So that'd be exciting. Homemade broth is always, always, always better than store-bought. It tastes so much better. You could, and I keep saying broth and stock interchangeably, you could eat this as a broth, just by itself. It might not have much seasoning to it unless you added some more, but you could absolutely eat this by itself. It's a great ingredient too. So making a really versatile ingredient to use in your kitchen and reducing food waste at the same time, I'd say that's a win-win situation. So let's see what comments we have to talk about. I see Gail. Gail's here. Gail made turkey, asparagus, and celery stock. Dog safe. Oh, cool. So that's a good point. You could absolutely use stock to make your own dog food. Very fun. And you use extra broth stock in place of water for rice and instant potatoes. Yes. So any grain that you're cooking, or anytime that a savory recipe where stock would be a great boost in flavor, if it calls for water and you want to use stock instead, why not? Try it out. See what you think. I think that's pretty much all I have for today. Do remember to like this video, share it with anybody who you think would like to learn how to make their own homemade stock, and subscribe to our channel. Remember that when you like our videos, you are helping people find evidence and research-based information through cooperative extension, and that could be a rare thing on the internet. So thank you. We'll see you next week, next Thursday, when we use this very jar of liquid to cook some grains, and we'll talk about tips to perfectly cook grains every single time. So until then, have a great weekend, have a great week, and we'll see you next Thursday.